I turned my phone. I am back. I hope everyone is joining again. I did put out the invites to come and join. So, the first one who will be in, I'm going to try. Yes, now I get it. I'm pushing at. Normally I've got magic hands, but not today. The magic is gone. Yes!
Hi.
Finally! I was just telling, normally I have magic hands, but not today.
Yeah, I was talking and all of
Yeah,
a sudden you froze, and I'm like, oh no.
yeah, like I dropped out of Facebook. I had to start over, uh, yeah, to get Facebook on again and to start a feed all over again. But we were talking about the bullying. We are stopping the bullying for this
Yes.
point and go on tonight with Christina George and talk some more about it. What people like to know, you have your first encounter when you was 12.
Yes.
When did you start the healing?
I've been doing this for about 6 years now. Um, yeah, that's when my friend kind of, told me, hey, you know what? You have these abilities. I mean, not everybody can do it. So it is,
No.
so she did realize in me that I could do it, and she taught me, and she's a great mentor. I talk to her a lot. Well, I haven't recently because she did help us on a case, but yeah, anytime I have a question or I might need help with something, she's my go-to girl.
Yeah, everyone has one for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, and she's even helped George realize, his abilities too. And even sometimes, the things that he gets or the EVPs, like one time she was even like, um, that's not real. Like it's too clear. And I was like one time we went for our, so for our anniversaries and birthdays and stuff, we kind of like to go stay at haunted hotels, and we went to this one near us called in Sutter Creek, and we had some crazy activity. We had when we got there was an armoire next to the bed, and the door opened. We turned around to figure out how to turn on the TV. We turned back around, and the armoire door is wide open. That happened a couple times. Um, and then that night when we were doing some EVPs in that room, and I asked, "Are you the one that opened the armoire door?" And we got a woman say yes. And then that night, right when we were about to fall asleep, there was something thrown across the room. So we got up, and we're pretty new at this, at this point, and we didn't really have like a lot of equipment, and we had our EVP recorder and our phones, and that was pretty much it. And so, I'm searching and searching for what was thrown. I couldn't find anything. So we turned off all the lights, and George gets out the EVP recorder and starts asking questions. And all of a sudden, this thing got thrown across the room and hit the door next to me at full force. And I was scared to death. And we turned on the lights, and there was a cork drink coaster in the middle of the room, and it had been on the nightstand next to the bed, and that's what was thrown. And I was just like, oh my god. And so then, we're asleep at this point, and I was just like, it took us about a half hour to kind of calm down. And then again something got thrown, and I was like, okay, please let us get our beauty sleep, stop throwing things. And it stopped. No more activity that night. Well, we woke up in the morning and there was a piece of hard candy in the middle of the floor, and that's what got thrown the third time. So we were like, okay, interesting. So when we go home, and the next day George got home from work, and he was upstairs in our bedroom, and he just had this feeling that someone was with him, and so he got the EVP recorder out and started recording, and he got this woman. It's the saddest sounding thing. She says, "Help me," and then he asks, like, "What's your name? What do you want?" And she says, "Mary." And I have these on my Instagram page. They're at the very, very beginning, because this is when we first started our social media pages. And our friend that we had on speed dial all the time at the time, she listened to those. She's like, they don't sound, they're too clear. Well, she did what she does, and she found out, yes, her name was Mary, and she had committed suicide, and she wanted to cross over, but she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to. So we were able to help her cross over, but that was pretty crazy. But we have stuff like that happen all the time. Um, yeah, that's our life.
It's it's so interesting. I can listen to it all day, what
I can
all
talk.
week. And yeah, but I do love it. I do love like hearing all about what people been through and found out, and the road they had to take, and sometimes it's very hard to get to that point to do the things that you already do.
Yeah.
It's so far back over here, maybe 10
Yeah.
years, 15 years.
I mean, we've been dealing with things like this for a long, long time, and we always kind of had a logical explanation about why something, like, why did a light turn on, or and finally, when so many things started happening, we couldn't ignore it anymore. Like, I was talking about our daughter. She's 23, or she's almost 24, but when she was about to turn 18, I mean, we'd always had things happening in our house, and we always found like logical explanations for it, or thought so. And when she was about to turn 18, a lot of things started happening. And the first thing was, one morning, George and our oldest daughter had already left for the day. And I got up to get ready for work. I went downstairs to get my coffee. When I went downstairs, I noticed our girls' bedroom doors were both shut. Um, I went downstairs, got my coffee, came back upstairs, and their doors were, well, actually, one door was open. Our younger daughter's door was open. So I was like, oh, okay, she's getting up, getting ready for school. I go down there, and she's like nowhere to be found. So I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. So I shut the door, walked down the hall to our room, and I turned the corner, and she's asleep on our couch. And she always used to do that when she'd get scared. Because, like I said, I know she has abilities, excuse me, but she doesn't, you know, want anything to do with it right now. So she's sound asleep on our couch, and I was like thinking, okay, that's kind of weird. So I start getting ready for work, and I hear a door open, and I look down the hall, and her door's open again, and I look around the corner, and she's still sound asleep. So I'm like, okay, there's something here. So I go on Facebook, and I kind of say, oh, we have doors opening and closing by themselves in our house. Well, this lady that I knew through work, she contacted me, and she was like, oh, I can do a remote reading for you, and or a remote viewing. And I was like, okay, what is that? I don't know.
Mhm.
So I didn't tell, all I did was tell her, my daughter's name. And so she did a remote viewing, and she found out we had two little girls at our house. They had been the victims of these serial killers here in the Bay Area, and their whole family actually got murdered. These two serial killers, it was two of them, and they would go around killing like whole families, and they buried a bunch of them in some wells. that recently had been starting, they found bodies. So apparently these two little girls had found my daughter when she was in elementary school at our old house. Now, mind you, my daughter's about to turn 18. So we've had these girls with us for a long time, and we always kind of,
Mhm.
blew stuff off. And at the time that they found her and came home with her, I had been doing daycare in my home, and so I had my house was filled with kids, and we had toys everywhere, and so these two little girls loved it. And so I think they had probably been with us for about 10 years at least, and they were very attached to us. Well, we moved, they came with us when we moved, and I had stopped doing daycare, and so, and our girls were older. I mean, my youngest girl, she was about to turn 18, and so we didn't have toys any longer, and so they were kind of wondering like, hey, what's going on? So they started making themselves known. Well, so this person was, came to our house, and she, you know, she she's told us about the two little girls, and where they like to hide was at the closet underneath our stairs. And I had to laugh because at this time George really didn't want he always claimed he didn't believe in the paranormal, and he was always kind of pushing things away. Well, he loved to go lay down in that closet because it was always the coldest room in the house. So when he found out that that's where they like to stay, he was a little bit freaked out. So to say the least. And then, so shortly after that, and this lady had told us, okay, well, you need to tell them it's okay to go into the light. Their family's going to be there waiting for them. And so we started doing that. And George actually saw one of the little girls standing in our hallway. She had a purple dress on and blonde ponytails. And he started crying for no reason. Because the thing was, is these two little girls didn't know they died. You know, they had no idea that were dead all these years, and then they finally realized that they were dead. And so this is when George really started realizing that he had gifts that he couldn't ignore any longer. Um, so during this time, we had met my friend. Her name's Julie, and the energy worker. And I worked at an antique store at the time, and I didn't know her, and I was telling our story to another lady that worked there, and then she told Julie what happened. And so Julie did her own remote viewing, and found out the same exact thing. And she has helped us um, cross these girls over quicker. Well, when the first lady found out that Julie was helping us, oh my God, there was like a whole psychic war going on. It was crazy. Um, and this first lady had told me that there were people out there that called my younger daughter doll face. And I was just like, okay, that's weird. Um, well, then when this whole psychic war went between Julie and the other woman, all of a sudden these things started happening. We had in that same closet under the stairs, the light would go on. Like one day we were in the kitchen, and George was like, did you turn the light on in the closet? I said, no. I'm like, maybe one of the girls did and they forgot to turn it off. So we went in, turned it off, closed the door, went back to what we were doing, and the light came back on. And this went on and on and on and on. And I was like, oh my God, Julie, this is what, keeps happening. And she told me that it was actually, so she found out that this is like a crazy story. Our youngest daughter, Caitlin, she was actually an angel. And she was sent to Earth because she had some lessons to learn. Apparently, she was very judgmental, and she was one of the angels that would determine if you could get into heaven or not. And apparently these two entities that called her Dollface were looking for her because they felt that she had passed the wrong judgment on her. and they wanted her to make it right. Well, she has no idea. She can't see them or anything. So one of them kept turning on the hall light or the closet light, and I just got tired of it. So one night I went down and I opened the door and I was like, why don't you ever do this when we're watching? I'm so sick of it, blah 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 blah. And I went to go shut the door and it wouldn't shut. And I looked down and the three screws on the bottom hinge were all out on the floor. And I was like, oh crap. So Julie actually had to go talk to this entity, and she said it was the scariest thing she'd ever had to do in her life. Her hair stood on end, um, but she was able to actually help it. And then as soon as that one left, another one came, and she had to do the same thing. So ever since then, it's like been a revolving door wherever we live. Right after that happened, George started seeing entities in our house. Like I can always tell when he sees something because he gets this look on his face, and he will see them just like a real person. One night we were eating dinner and he saw someone standing in our living room, and he's like, "It's a bald man with overalls on, just standing there," and then he goes away. Um, and then we actually even had to have Julie and a friend of hers come do an exorcism at our house because we had a very negative entity there. And it turned out the land that our house was built on had been Indian land, and there had been a war. And one of the entity that was there was one of the white men, and he was very negative in life, and so he was negative in death, and he was making all of these entities do things that they didn't want to do. And it so happens that George, in a past life, was actually a soldier in that same war in that same area.
Oh
um,
my.
yeah, so and then we even had one where a wife in one of George's past lives came to our house, and she was pissed, and she kept like pulling his arm when he was asleep and doing all this stuff. And thankfully my friend Julie was able to help us with that. Another one, he was a prison guard at one, or a prison warden at one time, and there was a bunch of prisoners that came to our house and they were messing with him. um, the most interesting one though was one came and um, he was looking for our daughter Caitlin because she had been his guardian angel. Well, it turns out that George actually murdered him in a previous life. So he found George at the same time and he started messing with him. We've had, yeah, we even had at one time these crazy oily face prints on our sliding glass door, and I have those on my Instagram page too. They're side profiles, and every face is different. We even tried to debunk it because we tried to put our face up there, and it gets just all smudged. I mean, these are detailed. You can see the outline of their ears, their nose, their lips, and the first one that showed up, where George and I are sound asleep, and all of a sudden our girls run up and they're like, "Mom, mom, mom!" I don't know why they always call me when they get scared, not their dad, but it was always me. So I went down there half asleep, and they're like pointing at this, and at first I didn't see it, and then it shows up. It's a side profile. I have the video my older daughter took, and she's freaked out. And so I would clean it off, and the next day a different one would pop up. And one time, one popped up while George and I were there, and as I'm looking at it, I'm like really up close looking at it. Another one popped up right underneath, and it's a different face. So we have two face prints. And then we had another one that and unfortunately didn't get a picture of, but we had a garden window, and way up in the corner there was another one. And finally, I mean, I kept cleaning him off with vinegar and doing all this stuff, and finally, like they stopped. But I post the pictures, and people are like, "Oh, those are your face prints." Well, okay, try it. Try doing. There's
Yeah.
no possible. When you do that, all you get is like this side of your face, because your side of your face is not flat. This has the nose, the lips, the ear. Like, it's crazy. Um, So, I mean, we have had a lot of crazy experiences in our own home. But so that's kind of how things started off for us, you know, and with our daughter Caitlin, you know, our friend Julie, when she told us, you know, this is her first life here, she has no past lives. Because she said usually, you know, when I read someone, I can see their past lives, and she has none. And you know, and then she said, you know, she was an angel, and she actually chose us as her parents, um, because you know she had, and she, I love her to death, but she's very naive about life. So you can tell that she hasn't had no experience here. Um, and, you know, a lot of things, Julie had knew nothing about her. And everything she said was spot on. I'm like, oh my God, that is her to a T. Um, so, you know, it's very, and when I tell this story, I'm like, oh my God, people are going to think I'm absolutely crazy. But, you know, you have to experience something like this to really, really
Yeah,
believe it. Um, you know, so it's just, you know, we've just embraced our gifts, and, you know, we learn every day. We're not, no one is an expert. We are learning. I mean, I have, George and I both have so much to learn, and we always learn something from others. So, you know, nobody's an expert. The paranormal is unknown. Nobody knows the
yeah,
truth. The metaphysical is unknown. And everyone's gifts are not the same. Everybody has different abilities. There's no right or wrong way of doing anything. Really, like, it's your own belief. If you believe it, it's gonna work. It's gonna, you know, happen.
yeah,
So that's just my 2 cents.
yeah. But I think I do think alike. I do think alike.
Yeah.
Exactly alike. Yeah, I do. And most
Well, good.
of them are. Yeah. So I don't think you're crazy or whatever, because I think, oh my God, you're just telling the same thing what I'm telling over here for so long. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I mean, it's true, and you know, people need to realize that. Um, you know, so it no nobody does anything the right or wrong way. It's, you know, even you know, protecting yourself when you go into a an investigation. There's no right or wrong way. You have to do what you believe is going to protect you, and that's what's going to protect you is your belief. If you don't believe it, it's not going to work.
no,
You know, so it's just being open to new things, and you know, that's all.
yeah,
Does anyone
it
have any
is.
questions? I haven't been paying attention
Yes,
to.
I was about to ask it. I see so many people in. I see Art. He's throwing hearts at everyone. So he loves everyone like always. And I see Wendy, Petra, Mary, Mai. Yeah. Do you have a question for Kara? Now is your chance. Anyone? Otherwise, I'm gonna ask her for a card.
Yeah,
Questions?
usually I don't get to talk like this. Usually when we do interviews like this, it's George and I, and he kind of takes over the conversation because, you know, he loves to talk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's see, okay, when did I get into the paranormal? Phil, well, I mean, I've always believed in it. I saw my first full body apparition when I was 12. We were visiting my great grandmother's farmhouse in Kansas, and there was a tornado coming. And my cousin and I were asleep upstairs in this creepy bedroom. And she said, Kara, look in the doorway. And I looked in the doorway, and there was a full bodied apparition of a man in a fedora hat standing in the doorway. And we were scared shitless. We couldn't leave the room because he was standing in the doorway. To this day, I believe it was my great grandfather that had passed away before I was born. Um, but ever since then, I have been a believer. I actually got into investigating and everything about 6 years ago or so. That's when everything kind of started happening in our house, and we really couldn't ignore it anymore. But that's how and when I got into it.
Aha. Now I don't quite understand. I see Art putting something down, but I thought it was for someone else, for Wendy. So, Art, is it for Wendy or for Kara? Hi, Karen. How nice for you to join. Um, Joke is asking, how did you put yourself together and cope with the situation, with the fear, together with George, and make it bearable? I don't quite understand the question. Maybe you do?
Uh, is she talking about like maybe the bullying? I'm not sure. Um,
No, I'm not also. Joke, put the rest of the question down. Um, for Wendy, question for Kara. When you enter the room, do people fall to the ground? I don't
I
know why
hope
you're
not.
asking.
I hope not. I hope I don't have that effect on people. No.
That would make me laugh. He has a friend, and if he enters the room, people will fall down, he's telling. So maybe because your energy is so overwhelming, you come in and you enter.
Maybe they don't literally fall to the ground because I've never seen that happen. But it's kind of funny because growing up, I was always very, very shy. I didn't, I was very quiet. So a lot of people, especially in high school, thought I was a snob because I wasn't very outgoing. I kept to myself. Um, I didn't talk a lot. And then my wonderful husband came along, and as you all know, those of you that know him, he's very outgoing. So over the years, he's rubbed off on me a bit. And ever since I started doing my daily card pulls, it really gave me a lot more self confidence. Um, you know, so I'm like a few years ago, there's no way I would have done an interview like this and talked about myself because I hate, like, even on job interviews, I always feel like I have to sell myself, and I am my worst critic. Um, so this all of this has actually really helped me build my self confidence, and that, I mean, and if you don't believe in your, I feel like if you don't believe in yourself and what you do and your abilities, there's no way you can help someone else. I mean, the first person you have to love and believe in is you. Otherwise, you're no good to anybody else. So I really think that putting myself out there, getting out of my comfort zone, has really made me be more confident and make me make me even more confident in my abilities. Because at first, when I started, being able to do this, I doubted myself. I'd be like, "Oh my, did that really work? Like, did I really do that?" I'm like, "I don't know." Now, there's so many times that, you know, like George and I, we, because his abilities are different than mine, and we, like, when my daughter, last weekend texted us saying, "Oh my God, something's happening." So I'm like, "Okay, George, you see what you can see, and I'll see what I can see." And we don't tell each other anything. Like, he'll even write it down and not say anything until I'm done. And more often than not, recently, we came up with the same name. I mean, we came up with the name Abigail. That's not even a common name. We came up with that she was 6 years old. You know, so it's things like that have really made us realize that, we really do have these gifts. They really do. Or
Yeah,
when and contacts us and say, hey, you know what? I have an attachment. I need help. When we're able to help them, I mean, that really makes me know that, okay, I can do this. What I have is real. I'm not going to listen to the people that don't believe me. Like, I know. And it's like you just really have to, know and believe in yourself in order to be able to help others.
yeah, I agree. Totally. Yeah. And the self-confidence, and you don't need validation for what you're feeling or
Right.
what you're hearing. Only at the start, but the more you do it, the more you're certain the feelings are right.
Right.
Yeah.
My battery's dying, so hold on. Too much talking. Here,
Yeah,
I and as my husband would tell you, I am not a huge talker. So this is
you're
good.
doing great. You're
Thank
really
you.
doing great. Yeah. So you have to go to work?
No, today I am off, but I'm going to be working in my garden. One thing I'm
Oh,
doing
that's
is,
cool.
yeah, I'm my husband's grandmother who passed away.
Yeah.
She had these beautiful rose bushes in her backyard that George's great grandmother and aunt had planted, and they're both since passed away. So what I'm doing for the family, and it's a surprise, is I took a bunch of clippings of those rose bushes and I'm going to plant them and make new plants. And next year for Mother's Day, I'm going to give them to the family. So that's what
Oh my
I'm,
God, that is beautiful. That's beautiful.
yeah. So that's what I'm doing today. And then we brought a bunch of plants from his grandmother's house and I'm going to plant them here at our house so they will continue to live on.
Yeah,
But that's about
beautiful.
today. And I might make some jewelry.
Of course, for
Yeah.
everyone who is in the chat and following our conversation, the page is called Into the Light, and you
Yes.
can find everything about the jewelry. I stutter at this point, but they're all with crystals, so beautiful. Look into it, like the page. I will also share it everywhere. I won't
Yeah.
hold
We
you
actually have
much longer.
we have two pages. One is Into the Light Paranormal, and then we have Into
Yeah,
the Light Healing. And Into Light Healing is the one.
okay.
Yeah. And I also I ship to the Netherlands. It is a little expensive. It's 37 US dollars, but if a group of you wants something, I can actually send. I think the package can go up to 4 pounds, so that's pretty a lot for.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if anyone's interested and they want to all, come together and place one order, I can definitely do that.
Okay, no problem. They can put an order over at Samantha's page or on my page. We will put them together and order it uh, as one package. So that won't be an issue. So it's only an idea.
Yeah. So yeah, just know,
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of places will only ship to the US, but I made it so I can ship all over the world because I want to be
yeah,
able to help as many people as I can.
yeah. It's so beautiful what you do. It's so beautiful. We should do it again in the near
Yes.
future and talk some more. I did love it. Everyone is loving it. I see so much heart and so many people putting out shouts like cool and yes, love you. Art is loving everyone.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Ad.
I can. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank
I
you
don't
so much
call your
for having
names.
me on. It was such an honor
Y-
to be asked. So this is my first solo interview, so I'm really
Yes.
grateful very much.
Yeah, it was of very, very, very exciting to talk to you and learn much more about you.
Well,
Also for the
thank
people in the Netherlands. And yeah, I had a blast.
thank you. So did I. Well, you all
Yeah,
have a wonderful wonderful day, and actually it's or
Yeah,
night there. Thank you so much. And yeah, I would love to come back on. Maybe George and I can do it together sometime. That would be good
yeah.
too.
We should do it.
Yeah.
We should do it. Yeah, I love it. I love it a lot. So
All right.
that would be, yeah. So, folks, we're off now. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Sarah. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye. Love you.
Bye bye.
Bye.